Oh, hi, friends. It's Romania Black, and we're on season 2 of Tsurune! Oh, I'm so excited! Here's the thing. I am recording this a wee bit ahead, only because I decided a few weeks ago that I was gonna just watch the OVA and the rest of season 1 Tsurune and just get to season 2 when I could, and just wait a few weeks after it came out. But then I was like, I want to catch up and talk about it in the Discord with everybody. So if you're on Patreon in the Discord, then we're talking about it week to week. But if you're on YouTube, obviously these are going to come out later. And they're going to come out later on Patreon as well, just because that's how scheduling worked. But I was like, I want to watch it. I'm so ready. But yeah, I'm really excited. 13 episodes. 13 episodes this season. I'm like, good deal, Tsurune. And the weird thing is, I'm watching this through High Dive. And it's kind of funny because I originally started using High Dive when I was watching Run with the Wind. I watched Run with the Wind. I watched through High Dive, and it was so crazy because at that point I was just starting out on YouTube as a reactor. I didn't have a subscription because I wasn't making any money off of Patreon at the time, so I didn't buy a subscription yet, and so I had to go back through and edit out the ads as I watched. It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I think it's so great that I'm back watching through High Dive again like I was with Run with the Wind. It felt very nostalgic pulling this up this evening and being like, oh yeah, I remember that. How about that? So good times. But yeah, guys, I'm ready. I have muted stuff on Twitter. I've stayed as far away from spoilers as I can because I want to soak it all in as we can. I've asked people in Discord to spoiler tag stuff till I watch the episode so that we can all then I can untag it and watch whatever you spoiler tagged. I can go back through. You're not hurting my feelings spoiler tagging. I'd rather not be surprised in the Discord chat and then go back and see what I missed, right? But y'all, I don't know what to expect, honestly, because the OVA was just kind of its own little thing. I've not seen the movie to know if that's any indication. When the movie comes out streaming, I will definitely watch it. But right now, so I'm like, okay, I don't know. I'm like, I guess maybe we do a tournament. Maybe I'm assuming we're not doing the next year yet, though, because usually at the end of the season, they would have made a big deal about it, right? Kind of like with Free or any other sports anime, when one season or 1 year of students ends, it's kind of a big deal. But Tsurune's kind of different because they're all the same age and they're all first years. So, technically, if Tsurune wanted to have multiple seasons, and they totally should, KyoAni, go for it, then you could really have, seasons of them in their second year, and seasons of them in their third year, and see, the team grow, the Kendo team grow with new members and stuff like that. Kind of like what Free does. And then maybe show them, going off to college afterwards. I don't know. If you want to do that. If you want to age Minato up so you can have your Masaki ship with him, sure. I won't hold it against you, KyoAni. But yeah, so I've been pretty excited. I've been trying to avoid... have I read some fanfic on Tsurune? Maybe. But I've been very careful because I've been trying to stay away from... I know this is based on a light novel series, so I've been trying to stay away from light novel spoilers because I don't want to have any of those. But y'all, I'm so ready for Tsurune to sit back. It's been super stressful at work this week. I'm not gonna lie, really stressful to the point where I've just been by the end of the day, I'm watching Tsurune when I get home so I can feel better because that's where I'm at. So I'm excited, y'all. I can't wait to dive literally into this season and see what KyoAni brings to the table. You know it's gonna look great and it's gonna be beautiful, but let's not waste any more time, shall we? We are gonna start Tsurune Season 2, Episode 1. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's do this, y'all. Oh my god. I needed that. After this week from hell at work, I needed that. I needed the cleansing, healing powers of KyoAni to just reach in. And I nearly goofed, y'all, because I was so hyped up from that opening scene of them firing the arrows at the ceremony that I almost forgot that on the Discord, several people, Whoosh and Sweetie and others, were like, don't watch the OP until episode 2. They're like, just don't watch it. And I was like, okay, I won't. And I got like 10 seconds in, and the moment I saw the one guy with the Noirin fan, I was like, oh no, I'm not supposed to be watching this. And so I stopped it and like cut to where I saw a credit thing being like, okay, this must be the end. So I didn't watch past that scene of Shu with oh god, his name's escaped me because my mind is like, but with the twins, and then Sase, I didn't watch past that moment. So we'll continue with the OP in the next episode. Oh my god, but I nearly goofed. I was like, no. But that opening scene, god, KyoAni just said, Mappa who? God, it's so gorgeous. I want to like take a magnifying glass and like gaze over these stills. Like, this is art. It is not just animation. It is art. This entire series. I can't wait to watch the OP in full because the shots of them with the ribbons at the beginning, I'm like, I can't. KyoAni knows exactly what they're doing. They're like, that's damn right. Like, oh my God, so good. So they're at a ceremony at the beginning, right? Obviously, they're at a ceremony, and it took me a second. They're all in their robes there. We don't see Minato, so I'm very curious to know why we don't see Minato at that one. I'm assuming it's either one of a few things. Either this ceremony taking place is going to be at the end of the season, and there's some reason we can't see Minato for reasons, or two, it almost looked like it was happening like when they were older, right? Because they were a lot more built. I want to go back and look at this and see if that's the case. They looked older and more mature, right? And I wonder if that is legit, right? Because they all stand up and it shows him going to like one's target and oneself. Nothing else exists in that moment. And then, yeah, they take off. And it's Ryohei it's Masa that we see shrug first. KyoAni, you just keep animating Masaki however you want to, because I don't think anybody in the audience is going to complain. They make him look so good. I'm like, hello. Like, he is built in this OP, in this opening, right? Not necessarily the OP. And there's the target there. 28 meters ahead stands at target 36. So we have them all standing there. I like Masaki is in white. He's not any color. And then you have Kaido in red, Ryohei in yellow, Seiya in blue, pink in there. It's all of them there, right? And we can see that's Masaki there, or Minato. But they all look so much older, right? And they're all, I guess this isn't in the future because they are the same height. Masa's still pretty older, pretty much taller than them. And you aim with all of your heart. And then we see Masaki, and they're all doing the Yogoi, the Yago, where they shout it out as they fire, right? They're all doing the same thing, which is prefaced in this episode. Kaido, I think it's Kaido with his bangs pushed back. When Kaido has his bangs pushed back, it makes him look older, right? I think that's what it is, because he looks older there. And then Ryohei looks older there. And Seiya seems older. And then Nanao kind of seems the same. And then we cut to Minato, but we don't see Minato. We're going to go back to that scene, I feel like, by the end of the season, but we don't get to see him, like, in full glory. Man, okay. And then Tsurune rings out, blah, blah. We're going to skip ahead. And then we cut to the episode starting. All right. So, in stereotypical fashion, we have the school sports festival, right? It happens in Free, where they have to not do their sport for the day, and they actually do, like, in the US, we call it like, high school, like Olympics or something, where we do the different things. You do like the hurdles. We don't do different sports. My school always did we did hurdles and shot put, and we had a basketball ring. We had a basketball court, so we did basketball, and we did like 50, 5-meter dash or something like that. We did like Olympic games, and then we did basketball because we had a court and it was easy. But we didn't play soccer and like the other sports, right? And everybody had to play the same rotation of sports throughout it. But I like that we have Ryohei. There's a nice little lead up to Ryohei being in Kendo, because if you look, he's talking to the one girl and he goes to check on everybody, and there's a little like sign there that says Kendo Dojo. So we'll talk about Ryohei and the Kendo. I did not picture Ryohei being a Kendo guy, and we'll talk about that. But of course, Anogi is like naturally athletic and everything. But then so is Minato. He's great. Most of them are sports clubs. And Kaido's like dead set on we gotta beat them. The animation in this episode is so damn good. It's so freaking good. What the hell, KyoAni? This series has it has every right to look as good as it does, but I am so floored and over the moon at how gorgeous it is. I'm going to obviously talk to you all in this discussion, but I want to like go back through and look at every frame of this episode and soak it all in because it's freaking amazing. But yeah, so, okay, Nanao and everything, practicing volleyball, so they're all kind of separated. Nanao's hair is down. That's what's different. I was trying to figure out for the life of me. I'm like, Nanao looks older, and he looks different, but his hair isn't spiked up like it was in season 1. It's all down and floofy. I like it down. I think it looks better down. I like it a lot better. We're going to talk about that. And so, futsal in the changing room. Of course, Seiya is the strategist, right? Seiya is a strategist, and he, like, everything, he's the type of guy that comes naturally to him, and it kind of makes me flash back to, like, in episode 1, when he told Tommy Sensei, he's like, as president of this club, I'm going to give it my all to be the best we can be. Like, Seiya is the type of character that he wants to not necessarily athletically excel in whatever he's doing, but he wants to put forth all of himself into a sport and an activity and give it his all, whether it's strategizing or doing whatever he can to help others in that sport. So yeah. But then Naramiya, I love that Seiya instantly is like, gee, I can't imagine where he is. I love he just has that look on his face like, and then Ryohei goes and finds Minato, of course. Minato's like, I was just practicing, just getting a few shots in, and then everybody shows up. I love that Nanao's like, Mirha, and then Ryohei instantly Mirha's back, and Minato's like, I'm not doing that. Him and Kaido aren't in the Mirha mode. But yeah, it had to be Minato. And Kaido's like, and I love that Kaido walks up and instantly grabs the bow like he's about to do something, and now it's like, force of habit, huh? And he's like, it is. It's great. And then Seiya shows up to give them all a scolding. I love it. He just looks in like, what are y'all doing? And saying all club activities are suspended for the sports tournament. I love that he makes them all sit in front of him like a teacher. If you told me that Seiya grows up to be like a teacher in the future, I would totally believe you. He has those vibes. And then Seiya being the naturally amazing basketball player, not surprised. She's the favorite girl for a reason, right? And the other girls look up to her. I love that Ryohei's like, well, we could keep practicing, right? And Seiya's like, the sports tournament. Seiya's so serious. Like, Seiya takes no shit from anybody. And he just is like, no, we're not doing that. And that's the end of the story. It's like, Seiya would be that parent that would be like, no. Any other questions? And you'd be like, no. And they're all like, ugh. And then I love that Nanao's like, no, hold on. And now's that parent that's like, maybe one candy. My favorite part of this scene, though, is that Kaido elbows Minato, and I love that he looks at him like, come on, like you and Seiya are like besties. Like, aren't you besties? Do something about this. Like, get him to cave. You can do it. Like, I love how manipulative Kaido gets in that moment. He's like, come on, you can get him to change his mind, right? And Minato tries. And it does not affect anything. Does not work. Backfire. Seiya's like, I'm not going to be convinced by you. Man. So, Kaido and Seiya and Minato are doing futsal. They're doing that. Ryohei's doing Kendo, but we don't find that out until later, unless you caught the hint at the beginning. But Nanao being a setter is so perfect. And and Kaido expected him to be a hitter, which is fun. Because I was like, when Kaido said a hitter, I'm like, no way. No, Nanao is so perfect for a setter because he wants to help and support others. I got very Oikawa vibes from Nanao in that moment where he's like, no, it's much more fun to support people and then they take the shot. That's kind of like how his role with Kaido is. Kaido is the hitter and Nanao's the setter that sets the ball to him and he smacks it down, right? There are several things in this episode that I feel point to the fact that we're going to get Nanao it's going to be Nanao's turn to get development, right? Because I talked about in the last season that we got a considerable amount with Seiya. Seiya and Minato were like our main focus last season, right? And then we got a lot with Kaido as well, right? And right off the bat, the obvious choice of development is Ryohei, because we get not only the dinner scene and the stuff about Kendo, but the fact that his aim has been an issue and he's working on it. So I feel like season 2 is going to be primarily Ryohei and Nanao focus and getting to deal with their characters. And I'm going to imagine Kaido is thrown in the mix too, because he's connected with Nanao just like he's connected with Minato from season 1. But there's several hints in this episode that point to Nanao and Ryohei getting focus. One of them with Ryohei was the Kendo thing, which we'll talk about in a minute. But with Nanao, it's the idea that he's like, oh, I'll be a setter. And Kaido, who should know him the best out of all of them, didn't think that that was the position he should play. He's like, oh, you're not a hitter? And it's like, you guys have known each other since you were kids and you didn't get that? And he's like, you've got a lot to learn. And he says, the real heroes are the ones who provide support outside the spotlight. And there's such a double meaning to that, because the very next thing that Kaido says is he's like, well, you're always in the spotlight, so of course I wouldn't think that you'd be, the setter. That says a lot, because it says, one, Nanao does not view himself in the spotlight even when he is. 2, he believes that it's more important to support someone than take the credit for it. And 3, it shows that Kaido does not realize how much Nanao is supporting him from the sidelines. Right? I feel like Atsumu and Oikawa from Haikyuu would get along with Nanao quite well. I feel like they would definitely get along. And, maybe Nanao should have gone to Shiratorizawa and he could have been Ushijima's setter. And then, because Kaido's like, when are you ever outside the spotlight? And even in this scene, if you look, Nanao is the one solely in the light and everybody else is kind of distinctly more and more into the shadows. I love that. I love the idea that Nanao, who's a character that we've established, and we'll talk about it later, is like a peacekeeper, much like Seiya. Seiya was like the constant, reliable one, and he had to have a lot of character development. Much like him, I feel like Nanao is the one that's always viewed as the peacekeeper and the easygoing one. He's going to need character development too this season, and I'm ready for it. I'm like, they gave Nanao a makeover. They gave Nanao a makeover just in time for some character arc. I'm like, yes, I'm ready for it. And then, they establish what each sport everybody's playing. And then they take a bet on who's going to be MVP. And I love that the girls are like, it's going to be Seo. But surprisingly, Ryohei is this MVP. Again, some character development with Ryohei and his struggling with his confidence, which I feel like is going to get touched on in this season. But it's so weird seeing volleyball played in an anime. I got such Haikyuu flashbacks. I'm like, I wouldn't mind if we just, became a volleyball anime for a hot second. Because Nanao does a pretty damn good job with it. And just like in any other sport, Nanao has such Oikawa vibes in this episode. Like, the moment he takes the court, he, instantly gels with everyone. Kind of like how his character is. He instantly gels with everyone. Which is a little bit different than Oikawa and Haikyuu. Oikawa and Haikyuu is a diva. And on the court, he's a bit different than he is in real life. Nanao on the court is the same as he is in real life. It's fascinating. And I want to talk about him and Kaido and how they handle loss. Because it's very different. And Nanao's like, we're really overwhelming the other team, so we should keep the pressure up. And even though they don't win, we'll talk about that, how Kaido and Nanao both deal with loss. Seiya, meanwhile, is just trying to get a strategy to take Kaido down, right? And several of you in the Discord have said that, and in the comments too, have said that Kaido and Seiya are kind of an underrated ship. I kind of see it in this episode a little bit, a wee bit. Especially Seiya trying to take Kaido down. Minato is just daydreaming. Minato is not paying a bit of attention. He just wants to shoot his bow and arrow. Does not care. He is literally staring up at the sky, watching the clouds go by. Not focused at all. And Seiya's like, we're just going to do our best. But Minato, the one guy does ask, Seiya really knows a lot about football, about futsal. And Minato said he goes on and on about strategies when we watched games. So clearly Minato's been observant enough to notice that Seiya and how he picks up on things and kind of obsesses over the strategy of them. And then this one guy that's on the team with them talks about how Kendo is very sophisticated. And Minato's like, I never thought of it that way. Which, it is sophisticated, but at the same time, it's very bare bones. I feel like it's almost the opposite, actually. I think Minato was kind of like, oh, I think it's kind of the polar opposite. And I agree with him. I think that Kendo, it seems kind of like posh and sophisticated on the outside, but when you get down to it, it is a very bare bones, soul bearing activity that is not, it doesn't have like elitism to it. It's very much like just you and a bow and an arrow. It's very simple, right? It's kind of the opposite of sophisticated in an interesting way. But I love that Minato's just like, I love Kendo so much. We'll talk about his moment with Masa at the end. We'll talk about Masa at the end and Seiya and every love ship possible in this. But Kaido, he's just like, we can't lose to them. So there's this new girl that shows up that's hanging out with the other girls. I thought it was Seo for a second because she's tall and her hair and eye color is similar to Seo, except she's got the bun. She reminds me of Go's friend from Free. She also had a bun. It's in universe. It's the same girl. She's just friends with everybody. Makes sense, right? Makes sense. And of course, Seo is like amazing. And so Yuna tells them that the boys have this bet going on. And they're like, what silly boys? Ha ha ha. So simple. But then here's the thing. The team, they lose by 2 points, which is super sad. They lose by 2 points. But Nanao doesn't let the loss show. He slaps the guy on the shoulder. He's like, we almost had him, didn't we? And the guy's like, oh yeah, man. So Nanao takes the defeat on the chin and doesn't act like it's any big thing. He's like, no, it's fine. We got this. Kaido takes the loss very seriously, right? And he gets into his own head. Nanao is like water on a duck's wing. Nanao lets all the negativity kind of seemingly slide off of him, which I think is also a sign that we're going to deal with character development with him, because Seiya kind of had that same mentality at the start of last season where everything just slid off him and he's like, oh no, it's fine, I got this. And then by the end of the season, it was like, no, you don't have this. And Minato had to bring him back. I feel like Nanao is going to be in the same boat as Seiya, where he seems like he's all right, then he's not going to be all right. But I think it's going to be Kaido that has to bring him back. I think that Minato had to bring Seiya back. Kaido's going to have to bring Nanao back. I could be wrong. But also, Minato's got some moves. He's actually pretty good. He does a spin move and twirls around this guy. For a guy that wasn't paying any attention to futsal, him and Seiya have clearly practiced. I'm just saying. In Ace of the Diamond, the players suck at every other sport. These guys are actually halfway decent. It's actually pretty good. And poor, Kaido's just sweating and overthinking it and just overworking himself. And Seiya's like, well, that worked out for us. And yeah, they win 10-8. And then Kaido is like, if I could just run faster. Kaido just gets in his own head. I feel like Kaido is naturally really athletic, but he overdoes it. Because the one guy says, you ran more than any of us. He overthinks things and overdoes them, right? He gets inside his own head. He is his own worst enemy. And oh my God, Seiya, the shipping moment for me with Seiya and Kaido is like, nice effort, Kachan. I was like, oh my God. And I loved it. Minato was just like, really? You called him Kachan? And Kaido's like, If you told me that you were shipping Seiya and Kaido, I can see it. I don't know if I'm there yet. But if you told me you shipped them, I can see it. And so then, yeah, everything gets over and they decide the MVP and they end up getting second in the soccer tournament. Want to make note real quick. Like, who else could it be? And they go get the okonomiyaki, right? There is, outside of the front door of the okonomiyaki, is one of those little tanuki raccoons, one of those Shigaraki lucky raccoons. It's in Kuroko's basketball. Midorima has it in one of the games. It's his lucky item for the day. I looked them up. They're ridiculously expensive. Like, one that's this big is like $125. Not affording that. But there's a huge one out in front of that store. Okay. I love it. But yeah, so they go there, and the MVP, the winner of the Kendo Club's first tournament MVP title, is Ryohei. And he's like, thanks, I guess that's me. And everybody cheers him on. He's like, I'm sorry you guys had to pay for this. And like, so how does it feel to pull off a victory as great as winning the Kendo competition? He's like, well, it's been a while since I picked up a bamboo sword, so I was pretty nervous. And I love that Kaido's like, well, you didn't say you were officially ranked in Kendo. So Ryohei is naturally very good at Kendo, which is fascinating. And he says, I only practiced from elementary school through year 2 of junior high. It's like, well, I only practiced my whole life. Right? I like the continuity, too, of Seiya putting all the spice in public on his food. Like, he does that in front of everybody. It's great. He's like, that was unexpected. The third year he was up against had gone undefeated the past 2 years. So Ryohei took on a third year that was undefeated and beat him. And yeah. And then shows him going forward. The Kendo kids were saying you should join the Kendo club, right? And then he's like, oh, and he sees all of them. I love when he takes his mask off and looks over. He sees all of them watching from the doorway, and he smiles. And then Minato gets all emotional. He's like, you're not switching to the Kendo club, are you? And he's like, oh, yeah, right, no. He's like, are you devoting yourself to Kyudo instead? He's like, it's always been the plan. And so there's a moment where you see like one sock is on his 1 foot high up and the other one is down low. Why do you seem to have such potential for Kendo? Why would you stay with Kyudo then? And he kind of scratches his ankle there. Like he doesn't, like again, KyoAni is amazing at micro expressions and little tiny gestures. And so him like scratching his ankle is kind of like a little tick, like, I don't really want to say it, but he scratches his leg and he's like, oh, well, I mean, Kendo hurts, doesn't it? And he's like, and she's like, that's it? He's like, no one likes pain, feeling it or causing it. And then we cut to his arm, and he's got the big giant bruise on it from getting hit with the kendo stick. And Minato's like, I know what you mean. Yeah, because he's had, a painful experience himself. No one wants to feel or cause pain. And in Kyudo, you're not attacking anyone. No one is your enemy except for yourself. So for someone that's a basic golden retriever like Ryohei, it makes so much sense why, even though he's talented in Kendo, that's not where his passion lies, right? And I think that's kind of cool, though. I like the idea because so often in sports anime, your main characters are only good in that sport and nothing else. And that's just not realistic. There's lots of people who are naturally athletic and naturally really good in several events. They just choose an event based on which one they like the better. So I like that. I like it's more realistic that way. The best thing about Kyudo is not about taking down an opponent, but focusing on yourself. Yeah, it's all about your own like self development. And he's like, well, we have opponents, but you don't beat down your enemy, but simply achieve a better score. Yeah, that's it. It's not that you're competing to destroy an opponent or beat them. It's just to make your score better than theirs. Kaido's like, it's focusing on your own spirit. I love that. It sounds so poetic. Like the ultimate way of finding yourself. And then I like Seo goes, it's just being narcissistic. I love these guys have all these philosophical, like, poetic things. They're like, it's about your spirit and finding yourself. And Seo's like, we're really just narcissists. I love that. Kyudo, and then Yuna says a lot of Kyudo archers have pretty high self-esteem, huh? Which is kind of a funny thing to say because, honestly, the last season's shown us that that's definitely not the case. A lot of the archers do not have high self-esteem, but I guess the ones that stick with it do because they have a solid foundation. So as the one girl says, they don't waver in most things. Aim included. And that's when Ryohei's like, that's my problem. Ever since the tournament, I can't land a hit. And then they pull up like the chart that has all their scores in it. And sure enough, Ryohei has not done as well. And so Seiya, of course, asks what Masa said. And he's like, well, it's something about how I wasn't aiming the same. And I feel like Minato, he like naturally does the thing with his finger, like the hold and everything. It just feels like he's like, well, dang it. Okay. Like, I don't think Ryohei, he doesn't have target panic. He's just having some trouble with aim. And Minato's like, I wish we could just go practice right now. And then they all like just get up and go. And the one girl's like, you guys are just obsessed with Kyoto, aren't you? And Seiya admits, he's like, they're stupidly obsessed. Like, Seiya is not stupidly obsessed, but Ryohei, Minato, and Kaido definitely are. And I feel like Nanao's like teetering on the edge there, right? And then Minato says, do you think Masa-san is at the shrine? And I liked it. In that moment, Seiya is very expressionless because he's not about Masa at all. The girls are just like, you guys aren't really thinking about going, are you? And Ryohei's like, I hadn't thought of that. And Nao's like, am I going to get to finish my food? And Kaido's like, oh my God, we could go. Their expressions are all so perfect. And Seiya's just like, what I like about this episode is Seiya is not giving Minato an inch, or not giving Masa an inch, right? Mm-mm. And they say, what are we going to do if he's not there? And they're like, well, then we just ran for no reason. Then we're going to go home. We'll go to school and get our gear. I like the three girls are like stupidly obsessed. Even our leader. Mm-hmm. And then the one girl says, I'm a tad jealous though. Because like, they're all, to feel that obsessed about something. KyoAni, if you just want to keep animating Masa the rest of the season and just keep defining him more and more, you keep at it. We won't stop you! He looks so good. Mm-hmm. Looks so good. And some of his expressions in this episode were really, really well. Also, I love that he takes this shot to make this beautiful shot, like his hair flowing, looking gorgeous. And then he's got like a perfect bullseye each time, looks over and sees them all standing there. And it's absolutely hilarious. Like, I love that you have three distinct layers, right? You have Ryohei, Kaido, and Minato just like looking around the corner like the Three Stooges. You have Nanao there looking cool with his like shirt untucked, being like, I'm with these losers. And then Seiya is way off in the back like, I guess I'll be here. Like, I love it. I love it. Like a totem pole. You kids need to learn that taking breaks is important. Mm-hmm. And they all like go on about wanting to practice with him. And so Seiya gets this ominous presence from Fu. From Fu. And I love that Kaido instantly turns out like, what's in the woods? Like, Kaido, suspicious and scared of ghost stories, confirmed, right? I love that the owl comes over and Masa says, oh, it's a little white thing that prowls the night in search of prey. But here's the thing. He flies over, skips Seiya. Kaido is freaked out and like ducks. And then Kaido maybe is scared of birds. Don't know. But then it lands on Minato's shoulders. Mm-hmm. A big white ball. And of course, I love that Fu like nuzzles up next to Minato like, hey, Minato. So Seiya in this moment is like, Fu, is that the bird's name? Oh. And Minato's like, yes. He's like, you sure seem familiar, Minato. Like, I love that when he looks over to Masa-san, like, how does Minato know this owl? like, the way he looks over is so, like he's expecting, like, Masa's done something sinister with Fu and Minato, right? Seiya just looks over to him, and Masa's like, He's like, well, so what do you want to know, Ryohei? Like, Masa does not answer his question, or he just gives Seiya a look like, what of it? There's so much tension in this scene between Seiya and Masa. There's so much tension. I'm like, Seiya, it's totally fine if Minato knows Fu. He obviously knows him. I think it's the line before when Masaki jokes that he's like, oh, it's a white ball that like goes after its prey. And Seiya just gives him a look like, are you preying on Minato? I feel like that's what he's thinking, right? But the animosity between Masa and Seiya is so interesting. I've never watched a sports anime where a character on a team has had so much open animosity towards their coach, but yet they still get along and respect each other. It's fascinating. It's one of the better parts of Tsurune that I really, really like. So they do the practice. They go through the motions. They do like the half moon, the full moon, and the covered moon. and basically talk about the differences. The point of this part of the episode is just to give, if it's been a while since you've seen Tsurune, we're going to backtrack you and walk you through all the motions and let you know how this works. Just, in case if you need a refresher, right? And so then they walk Ryohei through it and explain that basically everybody is different. Their aim is different. Their sight is different. How they view is different. It just depends on you as the shooter. And it's not going to be the same for any individual. And so, yeah, they all gear up. They get ready. It's great. They thank him for teaching us. They all bend down. And then, of course, when Masa sits up, Minato's looking right at him. God, this series, KyoAni wants me to ship Minato with everybody. With Seiya, with Shu, with Masa. Make up your mind, KyoAni. It's just a free-for-all. And then they go through the motions and show us each person in order like they shoot during the competition, right? And then Minato gets to the end there. He looks up and sees everybody. It's wonderful. And it's a nice little callback to the end of the season, right? You can even see Kurosaki in the background, all blurred out. And so Masa shows Ryohei how to shoot. He hits the target and says it feels different because he really landed the hit. He felt like he did it. I just love how excited Ryohei gets, and he gets so like into it. He's just like, I did it. And just his joy is infectious. I absolutely love it. And he's like, well, you had your own form when you aimed, right? And so then they all kind of go over their scores after that. And Masa's like, well, you'll get better. And so he asks them if they want to call out their shots. And of course, Minato knows what that means. He's like, oh, we could call out our shots. You boys are super obsessed. And I love that he says, what'd you expect? It's what we like. And so Masa's like, well, why is that? Why do you like Kendo? And Minato doesn't, he answers last. Ryohei answers first. He's like the most straightforward, knows why he likes it. He likes it because it feels good to land a hit. He likes it because it's that sense of accomplishment, right? Nanao's is interesting. He says, I guess it's because you get out as much as you put in. And of course, Ryohei and Nanao are sitting next to each other during this moment, right? They're sitting next to each other. Looking. It feels like the series is sending us a sign that they're going to get focused throughout this, right? So, but Ryohei says you get to land a hit. So obviously this season we're going to focus on him and his practice and his aim, right? Nanao's comment about you get out as much as you put in is really neat because it's suggesting that you don't have to be an amazing athlete to be good at Kyudo. You just have to put in the practice and it will reap the rewards. I find that interesting. I feel like part of this season is going to be talking about Nanao and Kaido's relationship and Nanao putting in a lot of work to like maybe balance things out with Kaido and maybe needing that reciprocated. I don't know. And Masa's like, oh, spoken like a guy. This line here is what made me think, okay, we're getting Nanao focus because it felt very much like a Seiya line from last season when Masa says, spoken like a guy who knows his stuff. That line to me read like in the last season when they're like, that's our Seiya, super reliable. And I'm like, dealing with lots of trauma. Then I feel like that's going to happen with Nanao in this season. Right? And he says, what about you, Seiya? Speaking of which, goes straight to Seiya right after that. And Seiya says, maybe I like that it doesn't always go as expected. That there's a surprise there. And that could relate to Seiya being surprised by Minato in the last season. Kaido saying that your toughest opponent is yourself. Yeah, when you push his bangs back, he looks a lot older. Masa's like, wow, you're philosophical. And then Minato, of course, has the really good answer of, it's about connecting. Just being able to pick up my bow is so much fun to me. And it's how I connect. Each shot connects me back to the memories of my mother, to the memories of that day, to the sound of Tsurune. He's like, it's all about connecting. It connects me to exactly what I'm trying for. And I like that Kaido's just like, oh, and Seiya's like, Seiya seems to know, right? God, the expressions they give, the look that Seiya gives, the look that Kaido gives, the look that Nanao gives. KyoAni, take my money. And of course they're like, what does that mean? It sounded cool, Minato. And Minato's just like, I wasn't trying to be poetic. No. He's like, sounded a bit full of yourself, maybe. I like that Seiya is giving Minato a little grief, too. Seiya is kind of a savage. He's like a secret savage. And I like that about Seiya. Because in the last season, up until the end, Seiya seemed like the goody two-shoes character, right? He seemed like the character that didn't want to do any wrong and would be like Mr. Prim and proper with Tommy Sensei. And by the end of the season, when he starts adding the spice to his noodles, it's like, no, Seiya is kind of a savage. And he's kind of got things to say. He's just very quiet about it. And here, like, he's not afraid to give Minato a little grief, right? And I kind of love that. I love that it's not what you expect from Seiya's character, but it's so cool. I mean, I was like, I'm just giving an honest answer. And so he says, let's try calling out our shots. And then we cut to the flashback of him and Shu as kids with the sensei. Now, people have been saying in the comments, I am assuming that Shu and the sensei are grandmother and grandson, but I don't know that for sure. I only assumed it, one, because their hairstyle is literally about the same. They both have purple eyes, and she took him in by himself, so I'd assume it was because he was a relative. I don't know why. And plus, there's never any parents or anybody there to pick him up. He's always there at the shrine. So I just thought it was because he was her grandson. I don't know if that's the case or not. I'm just assuming. But I love that she calls out her shot and Minato, I love that Shu's like, oh, like little Shu's like, oh, wow. And Minato like blushes from it. It's really cool. I love their faces there. It's adorable. And then we cut back to all of them shouting out their shots. And then it felt like Free when there was that big gust of wind against Minato. And he's like, it felt like all of the animal versions of Free were swimming together again. It was a very Free moment. I'm here for it. But my heart literally exploded whenever Minato like gets so happy. He's like, I really do love Kyoto. And Moss is like, oh, he says, I want to keep at it and take every shot I can. And Moss's face, again and again, Moss's face is just, it's so endearing. It's so endearing. I love it so much. And so, yeah, here we go with Kachan's Masa-san obsession. So it's funny. He's like, we all owe him for making it to nationals. And then, so Seiya says we've got regionals before. Like, what are those? It's a different tournament from nationals. The top 3 schools from each prefecture all compete. Okay. And then Minato he takes the time out to like call his best friend Shu, to call his BFF. And I like that, of course, now jokes are like, are you talking to your girlfriend? And I'm like, well, yes. Yes, you could say that. You could say that he is. And he's like, oh, hey. And I like that he's like talking to him while he's getting dressed and everything. And they're commenting about here, Kurasaki's going to come full force since they didn't make nationals. And Seiya's like, I wouldn't be so sure. Things are special this year. And it says, because this year's tournament is a special event which marks its 40th anniversary. In celebration, winners of regional tournaments will also qualify for the national tournament. A requalification match. So here's the thing. We've got regionals and then nationals, right? So Kazuma is going to compete at regionals anyway, just to compete. But they've already qualified for nationals because they've won that tournament. We've got Kurosaki, and we also have the team with this new guy that are going to compete. So it very well could be that Kurosaki qualifies for nationals as well as this new school as well, or vice versa. It could very well be that, right? But Kazuma has already kind of secured its place at nationals. Yeah, and so then he's like, we got to practice Yagoe today, like we did before. And I love that Shu has that soft smile on his face, like, you called me just to tell me that? Oh, look at you. Oh my God, I could just eat it up. He's like, of course. And remember, you said you were going to start practicing and beat me to a hit. He's like, well, I only said that because you said you'd land one first. They're talking like a couple. What is this series? What is this series? And then they all notice that Minato is not with them. Is Kurosaki going to regionals, right? He's like, we are. It's like, we have to win our way to nationals after all. And he's like, oh yeah. Like, just quit flirting. Then we're going to shoot together again then. He's like, yeah, and I'll win this time. I'm like, oh my God. Yes, please. I just love it. I love that Shu's there by himself looking at it. I won't let it slip away from me again. Ooh. And then now it's like, oh, is it your girlfriend? He's like, oh, it's just Shu. He says they're going to win this time. The prince has challenged us to a duel. And Kaido's like, yeah, we're going to take on regionals and then nationals. We got this. Everything's going our way. And then that's when Minato's like, oh, well, we're going to meet lots more archers. And so we do. We instantly go to the finals. And we get our mysterious... KyoAni has to have an antagonist in a hoodie, right? We can't have a KyoAni sports series unless the antagonist is wearing a hoodie. But here's the thing. In Free, the antagonist wearing a hoodie is actually a big cinnamon bun who's just freaking awesome. In this, he seems like a little grumpy butt, and I'm all about it. He's like, look at that crap. Like, what's the unstoppable Kurosaki doing losing? And then he zooms in. And he's just like, these guys. He's, from the promotional art, I figured he would be like really stoic and soft-spoken, but he's like such a delinquent. I love it. These guys. And Nikaido is his name. And so, yeah, he gets up and shucks off the hoodie, you know, and goes up to do his thing with his beautiful, like turquoise arrows. Interesting. And, of course, like, I'm going to destroy him. And then as he says, I'm going to destroy him, and I was like, what? Who knows? Maybe. I love that Minato's just like having the time of his life, and this guy on the other side of the country is like, I'm gonna wreck their shit. It's great. Summer calls. This was like, I don't think I could have gotten a bigger serotonin boost than I just got from this episode. I don't think I could have gotten a bigger serotonin boost than I did from this episode. It was absolutely amazing. And I'm here for it. It's great. Oh, here for it, y'all. I freaking loved that. That was amazing. I'm so excited that Tsurune is back. It looks better than ever. There was all the feels, the moments. I could gush. I can't wait to watch the OP in full next episode. Can't wait. So excited. All right. But that's for next episode. Right. So I hope you all have this infectious sense of hype like I do for this series, because I loved season 1. I'm so happy we're going straight into season 2. I'm so happy we get 13 episodes, and I'm so happy to watch it with you all week to week. So exciting times, but I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. Thank you so much for watching this discussion and reaction. I can't wait to hear your comments down below, but we are going to be back next week with episode 2 of Tsurune Season 1.